Hello there. Yes, now I not only make stuff for my home and myself, I do make stuff for friends as well. Now, I made this skirt and she loves it and she adored it, and I asked her if I could borrow it back because I was going to make one similar for myself. And I do have quite a lot of this material left over. I made 2 kilts. I keep saying that. Now it's really simple, really simple. We call them Hoe skirts because you wear them over leggings. They're supposed to be short, they're supposed to be easy to wear, and they're literally more of a large belt. So obviously the only difference is this is going to be slightly bigger. Just slightly. I'm such a liar. Okay, so as you can see, all I need really is 2 panels. So this is great for any leftover material. I do have some leftover t-shirt material, although I've used black ribbing on hers. But then hers is going to have a lot more use. Mine is just going to be for the occasional, I can't really be bothered to get dressed properly, and so I'm going to wear leggings. Now this is very thin. It's quite difficult to sew on its own. I have been using some cheats to sew it, and you know, it's kind of stay tuned. I'm looking for the end really. There is so much of it. Yeah, must not Okay, so this is perfect. I have now found an end. You can see it's quite see-through, but then I'll be wearing it over leggings, so I have absolutely no qualms. And what I need to do is I need to cut 2 rectangles. Now literally these rectangles will be to take up the sides, so they need to be the length of this cloth. Okay. Now the actual tartan is not stretch, so the reason I'm using this as a stretchy fabric down the side is to give it the stretch, so I don't need really to take that many measurements, although of course I've made sure that I had enough before I started, so that this can take up the natural pull. And I'll be using elastic on the waist, so it's very easy to wear. And it's kind of scruff wear 1 step up really, because however much you or I would love to slob around in yoga pants, we really can't, but sometimes we just need that sort of level of comfort, don't we? So here we go. They could be rectangles, although it is slightly tapered, but that's just because I've got sewing machines on the table and I'm not standing up, I'm doing it sitting down and everything. Now the actual panels, because that's what they are, can have a bit of tapering in them. Now I've just folded these 2 into 4, and I'm only going to take 1 inch off. And I know basically the gap between the waist and the hips is only 3 inches down, probably 2, so it's not a lot. And then I've got the waistband to consider as well, so I've just taken that off. It's just to give it some shape, and also doing it that way will give it a definition of a waistline, so good to know. Now I've got the serger out and I've got the sewing machine out. You can just do it with a serger, and you can just do it with French seams on a sewing machine. Obviously it's whatever you're happy with, whatever you have. I have both these machines and I intend to use them. It's very easy not to. There's a lot going on with this 4th thread. Okay, if I have to switch you off, it's because sometimes when you buy these cones, I don't know if you can see them at the back, they're not as high quality as you would if you bought a spool of thread. Or these ones don't seem to be. They seem to have like little knots in, and you can see the knots sort of travelling down. So, and And it literally is a case of sewing each panel to each black bit. So I'm just going to keep going around, but I'm always going to start at the top because they so that it's level, it hangs straight. Now you can see that with the serger you cut a little trimmy bit off, and that does just keep it all very neat and tidy, and that's why you don't really need that much of a hem allowance, because the actual stitches on the serger only take up maybe 1/4 of an inch, and depending how confident you are in sewing, then you won't take that much off. But there are little lines on these things just so that you can see and judge your hem allowance. So I'm just coming up to sewing the next panel on to the first black side bit. Now these block panels did come into fashion, the big white and black dresses, and they're very slimming, so there's a lot to be said for this very simple skirt, and this scrap of fabric probably isn't even big enough to make a good cushion out of. Whoops. So yes, because of the angle I'm sitting, so I can talk to you, and I've got the machine quite far away, I actually leaned on the go pedal there. Okay. And now I'm not leaning on the go pedal. Okay. So, let's give it another go. If you raise the foot, even if it's like a lot of fabric you're pushing through, then it disconnects all the tensioners, so that it makes life easier to move everything around. But then, because I've sewn fabrics that have literally pushed the foot up, but then there's such wide reft that it's quite happy to sew it. It's just the technicality of pushing the foot up and disconnecting the tension. So I'm keeping an eye that I am actually cutting the blue, although sometimes it's only a couple of threads. But I do need this to be quite strong, because it is going to be, it's going to work out fitted. Lovely, so I've got one more line to do. When I started the second line, I did check that it was all the same way round and everything else like that. Just makes life a bit easier, and it only takes a glance, and it's done then. So I can also see that I've got all 4 of my seams on the outside. I know I'm using black and red thread. This is going to be on the inside of the skirt, and I could change it to blue thread. You can use just normal cotton if you can get sort of 4 reels the same and then use it. It does go amazingly fast. You will see in the future the projects where you can see the colour of the stitches. I will bobbin thread the 2 flat lines, and I will buy 2 just reels oh, I can't speak. 2 reels of thread just to do that. Now, and because of the way the serger works, it works on walking feet. So the reason that I always started at the top was because there was a tendency for the machine to push down the fabric, and as I only measured it by glancing, I now have just to trim off these black bits, and because of the it's very thin, very cheap black thread, black material, I wasn't too worried about wasting that square. And sometimes it is better just to give yourself an extra couple of inches, so that there's nothing worse than coming up short. So let's get rid of that. Shall we do the waistband first, or shall we do the hem first? Yes, the nice thing about giving yourself a little bit of the panel where it comes in is then you can tell which end to put the waistband on, because otherwise you're a bit lost. Now there's no right side and wrong side to start sewing the waistband. I'm actually going to put it slightly on the side because it will be slightly knotted. So what I'm doing is that basically I've got some thick elastic, I've got my garment, I am giving myself a little bit of an extra knotty bit, I am folding over the cloth and the garment's still inside out, and then I'm folding over the cloth again. Now I've chose to use blue cotton. There's going to be no right answer to this, I'm afraid. It's really going to show if I use black cotton, even if I tried to do it across one of the herringbone lines. So yes, it's really up to you. Now I've got the machine set up on just a very small zigzag stitch. Now this is so it appears straight. Should have gone a bit slower then. But it is going to give me a little bit of stretch on the materials, because this is stretch material on the size, and if it pulls, then I am literally going to break the thread line. So eventually I will unpucker the seams, and it would just look really untidy, especially because I've chosen to have the black, the blue thread showing over the black. So excuse me, I'm just going to rethread that. I was going a bit fast and I don't know, warn the machine that I was going to go over the seam. So now all I'm doing is I'm giving a tiny pull on the elastic and I'm holding the fabric straight. Now it's always difficult to judge. One thing you can do is you can cut the required amount of elastic and then pin it so that the stretch is equal all the way around. Or you can use, what I'm doing is using a very loose piece of elastic so that I can judge the stretch whilst I'm sewing. Because I'm sewing over the elastic as well, it's got. So what I have here under my foot is 2 levels of the tartan and 1 piece of elastic. So I didn't bother pattern matching. I might regret it, I might not. I suppose if I was to make a more of a plaid skirt out of this tartan material, then it would have been a good idea. Now I know it got quite upset when I went over the serger seams last time, so it didn't seem to mind that this time. And I'm tucking in again, giving it a good hearty tug so that I've got some pull on the waistband. I don't need a lot, but I do need some. And the nice way of doing that is that it's not only quick, it just looks really tidy. There's going to be 1 continuous seam along the top, and it's just going to make it really comfortable to wear. And there's no problems about your elastic breaking, because if your elastic breaks when you're wearing a skirt and it's only got that as support, then it's still going to be held on by several other points around the skirt. So I'm just coming up to the end, and I have my 2 ends here. Now there's a lot to be said for just literally trimming these ends, because we know we're sewing them in. So we don't want any sort of nasty bunchy knotty things, and because this is quite thick elastic, it would really show. It would just leave a dent in the flow of the skirt, and it would leave a couple of puckers, and you would really be able to see. So what I've just done there is I've just fiddled the end so that it's on here, and I'm going back a couple of stitches, and now what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to sew so I line up with my original start point of the stitches. So it gives it a bit of strength and it's not so obvious. So that's that done, that's the waistband done. Lovely. I'm just going to turn it inside out and bring it to the camera. So we can see there that there is some pick-up of excess cloth, and we can just see there where I joined the stitches. So it's not exactly perfect, but it's good enough. It's good enough for me because I will always have a t-shirt over the top of the skirt. So I know, on my own little Hoe skirt. So I am now just going to do the seam at the bottom. Now with my gung-ho starting, I always do this. I set up the machines and then I go down for a glass of water. And all I do when I set up the machines is make sure that I've got the right plug, because there's more than one machine, there's more than one plug. And I make sure that I've got the colour of cotton that I want, whether it's but I never change the foot, so I'm actually doing this on a zipper foot. So if you're really paying attention, don't think that I'm recommending to do it on a zipper foot. It's just laziness. I haven't changed it. I'm doing is rolling this hem. I could do invisible seam or anything like that. The main reason I'm not is because it's actually getting quite short, this shorter than I would like. And what I've decided to do is only sew up the blue bit, and then I'm going to sew up the black. I'm going to change the colour of the cotton, because it really does show, and I think that if I have that at the bottom I will really be aware of it. And it really is all about making yourself comfortable. If you know that there's a fault in a garment that you've made, then you will know it, you know. Nobody else will see it, but you will be really aware of it. So I must admit, if I was to recommend doing this in a class, I would just tell you to tack up the side here, the black panels, so that, but I'm actually going to whiz over it with the sewing machine. Yeah, there is one problem though, you're going to look like tweezers, it's not going to be good. But, so, never mind. Okay, so that's me up to date, as it were. I am just going to change the thread on there so that I've got these scraggy bits all sewn up. You can see that it rolls up quite naturally anyway, so if you were to do this at home you could probably just get away with a couple of tacking stitches there. And I'm going to finish the garment, because I love finishing the garment. Oh, yes. We have least favourite jobs, don't we, as sewers, you know. Some people like hand sewing and some people hate it. Okay, so I'll be back in a moment. So, welcome back. I've just done my little bit of stitching. It's probably a bit tighter than I would like, but it's got a lot of give in it. There's no way I wouldn't be able to break into a run if I wanted to. So, yes, I would do it again, and I would wear this skirt, but if I was to make this skirt a bit, I would probably give myself just a little bit more room, because I just feel like this black is far too stretchy, so it's making it far too clingy. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed watching. It's always a pleasure to do these little podcasts, and hopefully I'll catch you again. Thank you ever so much.